Thank you.
All right. So are we ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, thank you everyone for taking time out of your very busy schedules to join us today. We're happy that you're here. In today's Thought Leadership Connection series, we're going to be covering why the middle matters. It's a fun little tie-in to the soundtrack you heard earlier. And how stopping at the C-suite today is really leaving money on the table, and it's no longer something we can entertain as optional. So we'll go ahead and move to the next slide.
Yep, we're there.
Okay. All right. So brief introduction. I'm Jordan Dodd. I'm Lodestone's Director of Client Growth. I have extensive background and experience in human resources, people strategy, and I always lead with the understanding that to create real lasting change, you've got to focus on the people first. That's why I was so excited to join Lodestone because they carry that belief and passion in everything that they do, or we do. So I'm very happy to be here. Sandy, I'll let you go ahead and intro yourself and
Okay. I feel like I know almost everyone on this call, which is great. I'm Sandy Fiaschetti. I'm the founder and managing partner of Lodestone. And yeah, we just love to do these to have a hour where you can learn from each other, maybe pick up a couple of tips from us. And everything we're talking about comes from our background as business psychologists working primarily with private equity firms and companies. Some of you we've certainly worked with, so you know that. So no need to belabor that point. We're just glad to have a chat with you.
absolutely. Okay, so and by the way, everyone, participation today is very welcome and encouraged. So I'm hoping we can count on all of you for that. Can I get a little? Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Good deal, because I'm giving away gold stars, and that's actually a very big deal. But in all seriousness, today our goal is to uncover some shared challenges that all of you are facing, and provide you with some real tangible strategies to mitigate these challenges. So we'll go ahead and dive into some of the market observations that we're seeing and talk about why we're actually getting together today to have this discussion in the first place. So private equity's gotten a lot smarter about the C-suite, which is a good thing. So through assessing, onboarding, and coaching top executives. But what we're finding is that the real value multiplier sits in the middle of the organization. This is where the execution is actually happening. And that's where a lot of portfolio companies tend to stall. So we've got thousands of these mid-level leaders out there that are driving the work, yet they often lack the development and the readiness to execute. So it's really no longer an option for us to ignore this mid-level management sector, especially in longer hold periods. So we're actually going to run a quick poll here, just in just a moment. There we go. To get your feedback on where you see mid-level managers really struggling the most.
All right, so it's looking like a mix of things out there, but a big focus on letting go of being in the weeds and like how do you level up as a leader? How do you focus on the big picture instead of on the doing? And sometimes that's hard when the folks are, wanting to hold on. I just lost my train of thought on that, trying to share that with you. It's hard to get out of the weeds when you have a lot of doing managers, but you still have to, right? That's kind of the key to this one. All right, well, the good news is we're going to talk about all those things and the struggles of mid-level leadership and how you might be able to help those folks with that.
Yep. Let's dive into some fun statistics, shall we?
Oh, wait,
Oh,
statistics. We're not having a class, are we?
we're not having a class now. I'm going to give you like two statistics and then
Okay.
move on. Yeah. just something to validate, why we're actually talking about why we're talking. So,
That sounds reasonable.
that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Yep. So what we're finding that really does support the industry's need to focus on mid-level management is that Portco leadership has got a measured 10 to 15% impact on financial performance with a 25 to 30% impact on market valuation. So pretty substantial. We're also seeing about a half a basis point impact on internal rated returns. And that's coming from having strong leadership, not just at the C-suite, but this is in leadership depth. That makes sense?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So
If
something,
not, maybe it will in 40 minutes. We'll see.
yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, there you go. Goals.
So
And I
something,
think just
Mhm.
jumping on that, Jordan, this is, I think, important because so many leaders in organizations, HR leaders or operating leaders, can sometimes feel like leadership and people stuff is sort of this squishy, mushy kind of thing. And how do I get the finance person to understand why this matters? Well, is how you get the finance person to understand why this matters. It's not a either or. You can actually do good things about people while making a huge impact on the bottom line.
there we go. And then something else that is worth noting, in addition to those lovely fun stats, there were only two of them, so bear with me. Nearly half of all the private equity firms studied needed to replace their CEOs in their portcos, and 60% of these changes were unplanned at acquisition. So that's extremely substantial and disruptive to say the least. And we can now kind of connect the dots, knowing what we know, and determine that the real problem is sitting with the underdeveloped mid-level management, and that's leading to these stalls in execution. Okay.
I love the leaky faucet.
I love the leaky
Yeah.
faucet too. This is
Yeah.
one of our favorite topics. So value leaks below the C-suite. What we found again is that private equity firms are now investing widely in CEO assessments, like onboarding and coaching. These are very smart plays. But again, what this is leading to is execution bottlenecks. And these are often manifesting a couple layers down at that mid-level. So decision making is slowing, initiatives are stalling, and communication breaks are happening left and right. So middle managers are shaping roughly 70% of engagement and execution variance. And it's from this data that we've found firms who focus solely on the executives and the C-suite, they're going to see some short-term improvement, but that's not going to lead to sustained operational lift. So a CEO may set the direction, but it's the 20 managers below them who are actually going to determine, value creation and if it actually ships.
Yeah. This is one of those good news, bad news stories, I think, where like, yay, PEs are focusing on the C-suite. This is great. This hasn't happened before. And they really got that down. And now it's like, oh, okay, did you know there are more people in the organization besides the top six or eight? And we have been seeing a ton of realization around that, where people absolutely do, especially with the hold periods being longer. They're realizing I've squeezed all the juice I can out of the top. I need to focus elsewhere in the organization, and that's been encouraging. And maybe their why's a little different than my why might be as a psychologist, but I'm still glad to see it happening.
Definitely. All
So
right. So
let's have that's enough of us for a little bit. Let's get
no,
other
yeah.
people talking.
So let's
Would love with the size of this group, let's keep this. I don't think we need breakouts.
yeah,
Let's keep this as a what are you all thinking? Like, because you do have limited resources, right? So how do you decide who to develop in your organization? I'm not going to call on anybody, but I might, Audrey, just saying.
But I think you have to make sure that you have some key players spread around, especially when in all your you have to be very clear on where as a value driver, in your business and understand where a disruption of this chain would drive to losses. And it's really, I act a lot in developing countries, so that means that many people in my teams come from underdeveloped countries where education, a certification, just an education, a diploma doesn't mean so much. And it's so then important to have a very rational and precise evaluation of the different stakeholders and make sure that those people that are between you and the shop floor,
Yeah.
the people are really on the ground, really understand what you are talking about and really understand the value driver of your business. Because if not, it's just you may have a very sophisticated vision of how you are going to create value in your business. What is your mission? What is your delivery? And land really completely differently on the ground if you don't get your middle management very clear on what are the rationale of your business.
Yeah.
So for me, it's an everyday almost discussion to select because I work for a company that has been freshly set up or reset up. I don't know how to say that, and. We are not so many, but we act in many countries, and it makes the picture very complicated. And make sure that we have some key players who really
Mhm.
keep control and are capable to translate what we say, that is sophisticated financial model, business model, into something very tangible on the ground.
Mhm.
So it's very, very important. If not,
Yeah.
it's just like in FMCG, where you produce the nicest product in the world, and the last mile, it gets destroyed because the distribution is really bad or it's put under the
Yeah.
rain. Then your
Yeah.
product on shelves looks like shitty. And
Yeah.
and and even in service company or financial service or climate company like mine, if your last mile is not right, you're dead. You
Yeah.
don't deliver. You lose everything. Yeah.
I mean, such good points, Audrey. And one thing, as you were talking, I was thinking about that translation of your vision to people on the shop floor. And I was remembering ages and ages ago when I worked at Ford, which believe me was ages ago. The CEO would always talk about the middle leaders as a layer of clay. Like he was trying to pour water and it was getting stuck in the middle because the translation wasn't happening.
Mm.
And sometimes, I mean, often it's not intent, right? It's they haven't been trained. Often they were the best operators who then somebody put into leadership. They put in management, and no one really spent the time to truly develop them in a lot of cases. Other thoughts? I don't know if Shannon or Kristen or Becca, if you have stories from places where we've done this or.
Yeah, I can chime in, Sandy, and hey everyone, this is Kristen Albertson. Kind of in direct answer to your question. I mean, I think we think of this kind of in like, if you will, four box, like, so where do we see the most kind of highest potential, but also current highest performance, right? So where, kind of in the day, who has, kind of a value added role or like a highest value added role to play at the organization, but then also, where have we seen individual potential as well, and kind of identifying those individuals as kind of those leaders and those roles to develop. And you can also kind of think it almost as like, who has highest potential or, highest potential and performance when it comes from a skill versus will or skill
Yeah,
and will
yeah.
perspective. But and we try to sort of be kind of somewhat rigorous in analyzing those individuals as well as those positions.
Mhm.
Because again, ideally, obviously, everyone is a strong performer, but even strong performers might have roles that are naturally capped in scope. And obviously, while we want to continue to support those, really, are we really going to be kind of putting a lot of energy into developing them? Probably not, because it doesn't make sense for the
Mhm.
organization. Conversely, we might have a role where there is enormous potential, but is the person in it truly up to that, right? And in some cases, even there's an understanding or recognition that even with resources, maybe not. So that's one thing. But I also wanted to kind of circle back on something you guys mentioned just a moment ago before the group discussion, which was, yeah, the reality of sometimes decision making from the C-suite or however it kind of is getting bottlenecked. And that really resonated with me. so if there's an opportunity to kind of just discuss that, during this call today, not even sort of just from this, but like essentially cascading decisions and rapid decision making, rapid iteration on critical topics, both within the organization, but also potentially with sponsors. That really, I'd be very keen to participate or kind of hear your thoughts from the group on that component.
Yeah, and Kristen, just so we're understanding the nature of that, you're not talking about, or maybe you are. I guess that's why I'm trying to clarify. Do you mean as those decisions are being cascaded, the people they're going to are not, for whatever reason, capable, have the time or whatever to pass those decisions through? Or are you kind of talking about, yeah, we're talking about the middle, but how do we make the C-suite do these same kinds of things?
I think both. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I think kind of more kind of like almost decision making, cascading through the organization and where it's important to get kind of iterative decision making. So engaging in middle managers, sometimes even engaging in more junior team members is kind of not so much from a decision making perspective, but from an input perspective,
Yeah.
how can we accelerate that cycle?
Okay.
And I don't know about the rest of this group, but I think what maybe a particular challenge for us is because we're fully distributed, fully remote, which might be a component of that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I would say kind of decision making, kind of cascading to execution, but then also iterative decision making, or in terms of engaging stakeholders internally and externally, how just strategies to make that go faster.
Yeah.
That this group has.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool. Let's make sure we hit on that then.
Yep.
When you were talking about performance and potential, Kristen, I was thinking about, sort of that classic 2x2, or some people do
Mhm.
a 9 box or whatever. And just such good points. And one thing that I wanted to add to that is that where a person is on that isn't static. And I think sometimes what gets in an organization's way is they perceive someone as oh, you're
Mm.
a lower left quadrant and thus
Mhm.
shall be forever, right? And that certainly isn't the nature of how development works. And
Mhm.
sometimes, people have agency, right? Sometimes it's a not now, like where I am in my life stage. Maybe I'm not interested in jumping in a year-long development program because I've got something going on at home, or because I'm working on this critical project at work. And that shouldn't be an indictment of the person. And I'm not saying you said that. I'm just making that point that I've seen organizations really trip up on that. And if a person says no, not now, that shouldn't sort of pull them off a list. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Well said. Really good point.
Well, I wanted to flip into telling a story time, tell you about a case that we work with. This is a real company. We've worked with them for 3 years, going on our fourth year. If you can even believe it, they develop leaders consistently year over year, not a one shot. Let's do this and we a pretty program and then they stop. No, they've really kind of poured into understanding that this company isn't going to get where it needs to unless they develop a multitude of mid-level leaders. And so, um, anyone, let's play an interpretive game. What is that picture and why do you think it's here, Shannon?
Calling me out. Here we are now.
Well,
It
you
looks
have a
like,
sweater that matches the picture. This is
There
how
we
I
yeah,
go.
decided.
That makes
this
sense.
is my moment. Here we are.
Your moment.
I think those are blueberries.
Yeah.
And if the belt underneath is not properly moving, then there's going to be a mountain of blueberries that are going to spill over the side. So,
Okay, I like it. I like it. And it's a blueberry sorting machine. So maybe it's deciding who are the ones with performance and potential, to Kristen's point, and which are the ones that we drop through the bottom, and which ones do we move further along the line? Maybe.
one quick question, not to
Yeah,
derail too much, but is that a real thing? It can determine which ones
it
to
can. It can with
contain and
optical
which
reading.
ones to let go.
It can. Yeah.
All
Um,
right, I got to learn about this company. Anyways,
Yeah. Well, turns out it wasn't even that deep of a reason. One of their products is
yeah.
blueberry sorting machine. I mean, they're an industrial manufacturing company, so this is one of their things.
Really cool.
Anyway, so this is an industrial company, and they came to us wanting development for this mid-level leader. They were finding they were constantly going to the outside whenever they needed to hire a big hire, and that's costly, and they recognized it as such. And so um, they had these kind of underperforming plants, and they speculated maybe it's because we're putting people in um, who maybe shouldn't be put in. And so really just wanted help. And this particular CEO, love him because he's a CEO with humility. And he said, before we do anything to anyone else, could I experience some of what we're going to do to them? And so he wanted assessment, he wanted feedback. I know, try to hold still. Wait for the best part. He then took it all to his team of directs, so the C-1, and kind of open kimono said, here's what I learned about myself. Here's what I'm working on as a result of it. And I see the importance of this, and I'm investing money in the people below us in the organization. So you can tell why we love them, right? So so they wanted to assess the next layer, really kind of dig deeper. See what Sydney did there? Dig deeper. They knew they had technical acumen, right? But they weren't sure that they had people leadership. They had a lot of weak commercial alignment. There were people who were great at whatever it is one does on a blueberry sorting line, but didn't see how that tied back to the financials of the business. And so really they were like, let's put something in place. So in this case, it meant the program that we call LEAD. I know, not very creative, because it's about leading people, but leaders, executives, assessment and development. And before I go on with this story, I just want to say this is kind of a big program. This is a year-long thing, and it's very rich. This isn't, of course, the only way and place where a company would, train people, develop people. Sometimes they just need 4 hours of essential, like, how do I give feedback to people? How do I have a tough conversation? How do I determine performance and do performance management? So there are a multitude of ways to develop someone. I don't want you to think, oh, it has to be this big, long thing. However, the big, long thing gets a lot of traction, has a great story behind it. So we're talking about the big, long thing. But anyway, so we put our LEAD program in place. So for us, what this means is it's a year-long program. Every month, the participants in it have some kind of a touch point. And we use a model where we think about the individual, we think about a small group, and we think about a large group. So we start with assessment, like that CEO experienced, and they do a little business simulation. And Audrey, in spades what this looks like. We do a mini for this one, only an hour, because we're talking about
not the 3 hours feeding.
No, not your 3 hour one that, executives
one.
get for selection. This is a 1 hour mini, but they get the Hogan, the personality inventory that I know, Kristen, you're familiar with too. And it helps us figure out that potential. The company knows the performance. We can help figure out the potential measure of the person by doing that. So we start with that individual assessment. And then in the small group sessions, these little cohorts, what happens is that's, I think, where the magic happens. I love the small group because they're sharing in a group of 4 or 5 what they maybe wouldn't share in a group of 20 about their own personal development as a leader, what they're struggling with at work. And importantly, what happens in that cohort is we're training them how to coach each other, because invariably what will happen, and Becca has witnessed this time and time again, is these very helpful people who have been good at making decisions just start piling advice on their peers. Did you do this? You should try this. And the whole point is to teach people that coaching is really about asking good questions and helping people explore on their own so that they can grow. So they're learning the coaching and mentoring as they are going through that process. And then in the large group, of course, that's more your traditional training, right? It's they all 20 of them need to learn about how to look at a financial statement. They all need to learn about strategy and how to increase innovation. They all need to learn about what are the mechanics of truly empowering a workforce and so on. And so underneath the entire program, and this is the part where this last picture comes up, because yes, they grow as individuals, but I want you to see those little seedlings as not just the person growing, but the EBITDA growing. And this goes back to this developing people is not just squishy stuff, right? It ties back to the bottom line. So underneath this whole year, when you're in a lead program, you're doing what's called an action learning project. So it's a real problem that business has that they need solved. And this team works together on how to solve that. And so in this particular case, in year one, this company said, we don't have an operating system. Do you think these 20 people could put it together for us? And they're very nice leaders, but they wanted to direct exactly what it looked like. And we called them off and said, listen, they're supposed to struggle through this. Don't give them direction. Tell them you want an operating system. Make them come to you and ask what you mean by that. If they don't, let them struggle in month 2, let them struggle in month 3, and let them realize, oh, we should have checked with our stakeholders sooner. So they're learning through that process. But the fun part of this story is that company was going to hire a large consulting firm to build an operating system. Think like well, this is being recorded, so I won't say the big names, but people way bigger than Lodestone who were going to charge them about $500,000 to build an operating system. And this cohort, this team one, built the operating system in addition to being trained. And guess what? This program doesn't even cost $500,000. So the program more than paid for itself, and the leaders got developed. It's a crazy good case because in that first year, about 5 of the 20 leaders were promoted. And the CEO said 3 of those we would normally have gone to the outside for. So you saved me. I mean, the programs, I guess, saved me headhunter fees for 3 roles because I definitely would have needed to go to the outside. And now these people are ready. And so we obviously love this story. What questions or Becca, you work closely on this, and I see you popped a comment in there. Hop in and
Yeah, I was just going to say, the ambiguity of this action learning project, it really came to fruition because with further years down the road of additional cohorts of individuals, it's then been built out even further. It's been implemented. So there's immediate and real impact, and it then ties individuals who have gone through this program together by having continuity of an action learning project across multiple years of different cross-functional leaders across different parts of the business. So it's just really cool to see. And, you mentioned also that there's one-on-one coaching as part of this too. So cohort, large group, one-on-one, I think hitting those 3 levels together lets people spend energy in different areas and that we get constant touch points, but not to the point of change fatigue, which I think is really important as you're going through something this long.
Yeah. Another, when you talked about it being cross-functional, Becca, I was thinking it struck me that first year that some of these people had never really understood. I have a peer in another part of this organization. And through the process of this program, they learned that. And so even the people who are long since graduated from year one are calling people in other parts of the organization because they've built that. And you get the ripple effect of that, right? Where I'm a graduate of year one. People who work for me think they're stuck and they have to solve an issue on their own. And I know, oh, you could just call so-and-so over at MESPAC, or I don't even know who to call, but I bet there's someone at MESPAC who's done that. Why don't you go look that up? And so you're getting learning throughout the organization. So what questions do you have or reactions? Don't you just love this story? It's like a feel-good movie, but it's real.
I have a question. That's all right if I just jump right in. I have never put my brain to all this stuff, and I'm very excited about it. But I don't know, like, is this a unique program? I think it's brilliant for many, many reasons that I can tell you what's pinging in my brain. But is this it sounds like maybe this is a unique thing you do, but
I would love to say it's completely unique to Lodestone, Shannon, but that would be a lie. Like, this is good industrial organizational psychology in practice. It's good
table stakes.
instructional design in practice. And though, of course, I'm going to say, I think we do it differently. I think we do it better because the
Sure. Tell me.
practicality of the action learning project sometimes I've seen other places, it can be a bit of an academic exercise.
Yeah,
And we just don't make it like that here.
it's so good.
We have
It
some
also
fun
makes
with
me
it.
think, what'd you say?
I said we have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you're solving a real problem.
Mhm.
You're having everyone work, like obviously within a business, ultimately we're all trying to work towards the same goal, but you have so many different goals within that bigger goal. It's easy to get lost in your own little siloed department, right? And
Mhm.
so to have a very clear common goal, so great.
Yeah.
You not only save them the headhunting fees, but you also, like, they would have had to onboard, teach
Yeah.
someone the ins and
Yeah.
the outs. It's like so much time.
I mean,
And
honestly, Shannon, when we went to write up the case study for this, I said, the ROI looks ridiculous. No one will believe it. Let's moderate
yeah,
it because it was stupid
we want
ROI.
them to be able to metabolize this. Yeah. Oh man,
Mhm.
I love it so much. And
Yeah.
because you guys are friends with Lydia, it of course makes me go to soccer and like if you've played sports, any of your teammates, you suffer together. And not that this is like suffering, but you're endeavoring together in a thing that's challenging. And you don't want to have improper bonds, but you do have a sense of like, I know what you bring to the table, and you're in my corner,
Absolutely.
I'm in your corner. There's like a bonding that happens. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then I know really camped on this story, but there's so much to it.
Oh,
You get the learning of the C-suite too. So this is getting a little bit to Kristen, what you were talking about earlier about, well, how do I kind of influence at the top to do better decision making and to cascade and to involve people? Believe me, this C-suite learned by watching this group learn, but also through the struggles, to Shannon's point. Like at the very beginning, they really wanted to spoon feed them a lot of direction. And to the CEO's credit, I said, I need you to trust me in the process. Please do not. And I promise you it will be a rough couple of months, and I promise you they'll be better for it. And so, um, you know, that C-suite is very sweet and kind and good and a bit paternalistic, frankly. And so they learned and grew through, oh, we don't actually have to tell everybody how to do everything. By the way, what a relief that we don't.
yeah.
All right.
I think it's great as well, a kind of psychological safety atmosphere where people feel heard. And it's great career path as well, because if people even below this middle level see that those people actually grow and get eventually a promotion, because you can bet
Yes.
that one of them finally will go up. Obviously, there is a pyramid, but
Yeah.
it creates a career path instead of just recruiting always outside the organization. Uh,
100%.
I
Yep.
think
Yep. Yep.
it's a second effect. I would say that is not immediate, but obviously it makes the conversation and the information flow seamlessly across the different level of the organization.
Yeah.
It's something that Japanese do a lot through their lean concept, right? This
Yeah.
extremely
Yeah.
bottom up is a Kaizen concept, and that's what breaks a lot of barriers and makes the C-suite or even the level below less blind.
Yeah. You're
And
so
more
right.
humble as well, more humble because
Yeah.
actually the solutions come from the bottom and it's not just about saying
Oh,
the
Yeah.
right
And
things to do.
liberating. Yeah.
yeah, liberating. Like, oh, I'm not alone. I can
Yeah.
like lean on these humans that are with me. And that
Yeah.
you're instilling, like you're saying, like encouraging almost mistakes to be made, which is like the more that and as you're coaching them, like, no, 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 they've got to fail, they've got to
Yeah.
like try and do, then you're like creating a culture of growth mindset. Like, it's okay. We've made mistakes. We
Yeah.
failed. And then we worked through it, that's so
And
good.
by the way, as a mom of five, which thankfully they're all launched, can I say there are lessons we could maybe pull into our personal lives about you have to let people
Yeah.
fail, give them guardrails, not jump in and hover. And so, yeah, I think it cuts all the way across. We have another, we've been having group discussion along the way, but we have another group discussion question. I think getting a little bit back to Kristen's needs. So I want to make sure that we hit on if you could boost just one capability across your middle managers, is there a silver bullet or is there a laundry list of things that you would want to develop? What would it be? What are you feeling as these pain points in the middle?
Is it a discussion or we have to write
Yeah,
it
yeah,
down?
anybody, yeah.
For me, I think it's really the financial acumen. The fact that suddenly, when it comes to number, it seems like, there is this barrier that just only C-suite can really understand numbers. I think it's a topic that should be much more democratized at the lower level of the organization. And I really, this and leadership skills, really the fundamental of leadership.
Anybody else?
I think this goes back to, I when on the initial poll, I had sort of cited, ability to sort of pull up, lead, knock it in the weeds. And I think a corollary component to that is essentially to upward manage as well. So not obviously kind of knowing how to sort of be a leader to direct reports, but then also how to, manage up to that C-suite. And then another corollary to that would be sort of how not to get squeezed between the two. I think, we have a lot of middle managers who, for a variety of reasons, when they are squeezed, have difficulty leading appropriately, not conveying those stressors to their teams, and that oftentimes manifests in micromanagement, frankly, but then also not effectively upward managing as well, and really kind of being, not being, I think, to some level, the buffer that one needs to be. Between direct reports and junior reports so that they can get their stuff done, and some of the more kind of the thornier, trickier decisions, maybe even politicking that kind of occur. I don't want to say politicking, it occurs at the C-level, but I think you guys would see where I'm saying is kind of, there's kind of the leading downwards, but then also kind of, the managing upwards, that I would look to improve, I would say, on the middle management cohort.
Yeah, it's true.
I'll hop in. Hi everyone. My name is Sally. I apologize, I'm not camera on. I'm homesick today, but excited for this webinar.
Yeah.
One thing that this might just be my experience right now in the moment in my purview, because I support an operations group. They manufacture lubricant products. And I'm their HR partner. I think if I could develop one middle manager capability, it would be the ability for our managers to really own communications and learn how to tailor communication to their direct ports and trickle that message down in a concise and clear and, I guess, understandable way that is relevant to their employees, because a lot of our high level messages seem to get lost in translation. And like, for example, we have a lot of messages from our corporation delivered around safety and rationale for different decision making on it for HR purposes, like if there's anything that's changing with salary or compensation. It's kind of easy for middle managers to maybe get lost in well, I don't agree with this, so when I communicate to my employee, I won't really own the message and explain the rationale why. I might kind of side with the employee and explain, yeah, I don't agree with this too, but it is what it is, and not really give the rationale and own it. And I think that creates disengagement among our crews and then our other leaders, and just a distrusting culture where you feel like you have no control. So that is just one thing that I have observed supporting an operations group because truly, I think it starts from the bottom. The culture starts from the bottom here, and you can really get a good sense of how your culture is at the people on the floor at your sites.
Oh my gosh, so true. Thank you, Sally. Jordan, any thoughts as you're hearing and processing all of that?
No, I mean, I'm excited to obviously talk a little bit about our approach and how it can kind of alleviate a lot of the challenges that all of us have shared here today. Um,
Mhm.
so I think it's really relevant to see all these stories and feedback and it tying directly into, what we're focused on today. So that's
Yeah.
kind of a beautiful
Awesome.
thing. So
Cool. Cool. Cool.
that is a nice segue into our solution part of the discussion now that we've uncovered all the problems. And this, by the way, is not intended to be a commercial. I don't want this to be a hard sell. That's gross. What we really want to do is just tie in how our program has been designed with these struggles and these challenges in mind. So it is somewhat of a bespoke solution. What I mean by that is it's bespoke in terms of how our clients are going to go about reaching the finish line and following our strategy. And it's unique to personality traits, strengths, and opportunities for improvement for each of these mid-level managers that we identify need to participate in this program. We never lead with a one-size-fits-all approach. That's not going to help anybody. But our strategy remains the same. And of course, having senior leadership buy-in on the front end is going to be extremely important to this making headway and actually being effective in your organization. So, the structure of the program is heavily based on multimodal learning. So, like lecturettes, case studies, action learning projects. We're going to start with, our competency-based curriculum. That will include adult learning principles with collaboration and application-based learning. And then we'll wrap up with our capstone graduation, which, yes, it is complete with plenty of gold stars. So,
And
uh,
do you have to have a graduation? You don't, but
you
these
don't.
folks worked so long and so hard for a year that they do like some recognition, especially from that leadership team that they were struggling through that action learning project with, right? Like a lot of that, to your point earlier, Kristen, about they get squeezed, these mid-level leaders, and they don't who am I beholden to? The team that I lead or the team that I support or the team that I'm a part of? There are struggles as they're working through that. So to get to that end and be like, we appreciate you so much and the work that you did really does matter to them. And they get to this part's a little bit like school, right? Like they get to present, here's what we did in terms of the content of our action learning project, but here's what we learned on what we call the process channel. And Kristen, I think you've heard us say there's always the content of what's happening in a meeting or a project, and there's this other channel of the process. And a lot of the learning comes through the process, and they get to share that in that graduation.
It's a feel-good time.
Yeah, it really is.
Also, I don't want to, put the cart before the horse here, but something that we've been talking about kind of behind the scenes is, we understand that 12 months is a really long time. That's a huge commitment for anybody. Um, Sandy, this might come as news to you, but
No, it isn't.
we were discussing, the possibility of maybe doing something like a lead light as well, which could go over the course of 6 months.
Yeah.
That's a lot more palatable and manageable for most people. So we'll see, as the occasion arises, if it makes sense to kind of boil some of this down and make it easier to get your hands around.
Yeah, it really gets to that. I mean, that's the beauty of we aren't one of those large off-the-shelf kinds of places where if you say, man, I love the idea of that, but I don't have 20 people, or we don't have a year, or we don't have, I don't know, $250,000, let's just say. There's a way to get elements. Now, sometimes you're not going to get the whole, benefit, but any development is better than no development. So why not?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Well,
Shall we wrap it up?
I mean, listen, Christmas is coming for those who celebrate it, or um, so why not have some literal wrapping of a wrapped present? And which I know some of you know, we love to maybe it's just I love to use this tool of I used to think, now I think, because I'm very curious always about people's shifts in thinking. And I think it's important for people to realize that thinking does shift, that it can shift. So I'm curious, did anyone come into this thinking one thing about mid-level leaders and have some kind of an aha moment? I used to think the C-suite was where it mattered, but now I think investing lower down might make sense. Or I used to think leadership training meant butts in seats watching videos and listening to a boring lecture, and now I think it can be practical. I mean, I don't know. I'm just curious, any I used to think, now I thinks that anyone has? Yeah. Shannon.
Yeah, sorry. I'm like someone else. Uh, I wasn't aware, I can say that. I now am aware. I often think of like higher level leadership, the potential for being lonely or isolated. And
Mhm.
it just was occurring to me how lonely middle management could be because you have the need to like communicate and represent what's being brought to you from leadership above, and then you have people that you're responsible to for leading and developing, and then your peers, you're all sort of looking to be promoted, or and you may do things differently. So it just kind of clicked in my mind like, oh right, yeah, that's another potential group that could be really susceptible to being more isolated than is evident or was evident to me. That's
Yeah.
just one little thing.
Yeah, that's good. Any others?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
kind of going along with Shannon's point, and maybe more to the second question or second, the action I'll take
Yeah.
today is, rather than kind of, but it was like, there's a real opportunity for, as I think you had mentioned, also peer-to-peer coaching, among this cohort, like, or coaching or support even, or just kind of dialogue, that, I'm so even just, I was thinking about it in real time, and I'm like, actually, we could totally leverage that in a way that we have not in our organization, and that I've actually seen be really, really fruitful in other organizations. Yeah, but I think, Chan, to your point as well, just like how lonely it can be, and but at the same time, how much potential a lot of these individuals have, just, kind of allowing for some internal shared best practices or just kind of support could be really valuable.
Yeah. Even any others? What are others thinking? Sally or Audrey or and we can
uh,
switch to actions too if you want. I love that, Kristen.
yeah, no, I think listening to everyone because in my past life I was as well middle management at a point of time of my life I was as well, and I think listening to everyone's comments it brought me back to this time where I was actually in the middle management, and I think I find it very refreshing to put ourselves a bit in their shoes and say, okay, yeah. And as we were talking, I was thinking about some of my people in middle management and thinking, yeah, she probably is in this situation and so on. So I think this kind of interaction and discussion help us to be more aware of where our people stand
Yeah.
and
It,
what may be their feeling in the situation. Yeah.
yeah. It strikes me that this group, because it wasn't a nice size, there's what, like 8 of us or something like that, it's giving the feel of those cohorts that happen in our lead. Like, I wonder if an action coming out of today is maybe people who didn't know each other 52 minutes ago can call upon each other what to bounce an idea off, right? So anyway, just thinking about to that point of it being lonely, like what if we're all making connections and finding safe places to consult with other people that are living through the same kind of thing.
Shannon said she's in.
Okay, excellent.
So we got one taker.
Oh,
Oh
well,
no, don't let me be lonely here, people. No, I'm just
No, no,
kidding.
no, 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 no. I'm here. I was
Shannon
sure.
is
I
talking
kid,
to
I kid.
herself. We
Classic
are,
Shannon. No.
yeah, we are as a takeaway out of today going to share, by the way, the case study that goes with that story we told in case any of you are thinking, oh, that was interesting. I want to learn more. Or
Mhm.
frankly, if you're thinking, that case study could be fantastic help for me to push something forward in my own organization. And if you were a small enough group, if any of you want each other's contact information, you just let Sydney know that you're willing to share yours. We're not sharing anyone's information if you don't want it shared, but if you're open to spending more time with each other or finding each other on LinkedIn, just let Sydney know that. I know, Jordan, I think we have one more poll that you
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
launch.
Let's see. Get that pulled up.
I bet Sid will do it for us. I just wanted to
There we
think it
go.
up.
So, okay. What was the most valuable about this session for each of you? And then number two, would you attend another Lodestone TLC virtual session in the future?
And you probably have to scroll. I
You can
did to
answer
get question
honestly.
two.
Okay.
But we're
Yeah.
we're a learning organization ourselves, right? So we want to be making these valuable for whoever's on them. So please, anything that you want to give us in terms of feedback in the chat, or if you want to send a note later too, that's cool. But this poll will really help us with that.
And the third question, probably the most important, is would you consider partnering with us to help alleviate some of these issues we uncovered today? And you can say, yes, I'm excited to partner with Lodestone. Or you can say, thanks, no thanks.
It's okay. Right, that is helping us. Thank you all so much. We hope we helped you with these 55 minutes, and you certainly helped us with this poll here at the end. I am a firm believer in ending things on time or early because I know we all run back to back, and I loathe when people can't manage a schedule and make a meeting run over. We're not doing that here. The world doesn't know you're going to hang up 5 minutes early, so go grab your next coffee or whatever it is that you need before you jump into your next meeting. How about
Love
that?
it.
Thank you guys so
Thanks,
much for
everyone.
joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Nice to meet
Good
you
to
all.
meet you all.
Thank you.